Have you ever given a talk, wrap it up, and think, why didn't that land like I thought it would? You shared something real. You hit your key points. You even told a story that usually gets a laugh, or at least a nod, but the room was flat. The leads, non existent. And the only follow up you got was someone asking if you could send your slides. Well, here's the awkward truth that most speakers won't admit. It's not your story that's the problem. It's your structure. Because great stories don't work on their own. Not anymore. Not when attention is this short and audiences are this sharp. Today, I'm giving you the most versatile, repeatable, and powerful framework that I teach. The 3-story stack that every speaker needs. One story that builds trust, one that teaches without preaching, and one that moves people to take action. This is the framework that I've used to help speakers sell out their programs, double their close rate, and turn keynotes into booked out calendars. And the best part, you don't need to invent new stories. You just need to know how to use the ones that you already have. Now, if you're new here, I'm Lord Al Jensen, the founder of Next Stage Communications. Since 1974, I've delivered more than 7,500 talks across stages, pulpits, boardrooms, ballrooms, breakout sessions, and yes, one unfortunate banquet hall in Boise. I've coached TEDx speakers. I've worked with politicians, pastors, consultants, and coaches. And I've seen firsthand what separates forgettable speakers from the ones who make the room sit up and lean in. It's not charisma. It's not credentials. It's how they use their stories. And because I don't believe in just giving you content, I believe in giving you tools. I've got a free resource to go along with today's episode. It's called the 3-Story Builder Worksheet, and it's designed to help you map out your own connection, lesson, and call to action stories very fast. You'll find it in the show notes. So if you're listening at your desk or walking your dog, you don't need to pause. Just make sure that you grab it afterwards. You'll want to open it while we go through this. Here's what we're going to cover today. The 3 stories that every speaker needs, no matter your topic, your industry, or your audience. How to use those stories strategically across keynotes, webinars, and discovery calls. And how to go deeper with this framework inside the Next Stage Story Stack mini course. If you've ever felt like you're almost nailing it, if you've ever walked off stage wondering why that talk didn't move people the way it should have, well, this episode will fix that. Let's get to it. Most speakers have stories, but they're not using them strategically. They toss in an anecdote. They sprinkle in a struggle or maybe close with something inspirational. But the stories, they don't do any real work. What they're missing, and what you may be missing, is a system. A simple, reliable way to structure your message so that your audience doesn't just listen, they trust you, they learn from you, and they're moved to act. That is the 3-story stack. 3 core stories, each one with a job. Together, they give your message lift, flow, and persuasion without ever sounding like a pitch. Story number 1, that's called the connection story, the story that earns trust. This is where most speakers just try too hard. They lead with their resume, maybe their rags to riches arc, or maybe their biggest win. But real connection comes from relatability, not a resume. Your connection story should answer the question your audience is always asking. Has this person ever been where I am? Pick a moment when you were stuck, when you were scared or unsure, something that your audience would recognize instantly. That's when the walls come down and the real work can begin. Now, story number 2, the hero's guide lesson story. the story that teaches without lecturing. This isn't the place for tips or tactics. This is where you show what's possible by guiding someone else through the transformation. That's why I call this a hero's guide lesson story, because your client is the hero. You are the guide. And the story is proof that you can lead people, like your audience, through the fog to the finish line. One of my clients landed her first conference keynote. Big opportunity and big pressure. She sent me her draft, and it was textbook. It was informational, accurate, but it had zero emotional lift. I asked her one question. What moment made you believe in this work? And that's when she told me about a night that she sat in her car outside a grocery store, defeated, exhausted, and questioning everything. That moment became the heart of her talk. We built the lesson around it. We pulled her audience into the emotion, and we gave them a reason to care. That one shift got her booked 2 more times before she even left the building. That's a hero's guide lesson story. It's not a theory, not a tactic. It's evidence. It shows that you have helped real people and that you can do it again. Story number 3, the call to action story. This is where belief turns into action. You don't need a hard pitch. You need a story that shows what happens when someone says yes, even if they're nervous, if they're skeptical, or maybe unsure. One of my clients was terrified to make an offer from stage. We didn't force it. We just added one story about a client who had gone from hesitant to booked out. She shared it. No pitch, but after her talk, people came up to her asking how they could work with her. That's a call to action story. It doesn't demand action. It inspires it. Now, each of these stories does one job, and together they answer the only 3 questions that really matter. Do I trust this person? Can they help someone like me? And do I want to take the next step now? When you stack your message this way, you stop sounding like a coach and you start sounding like a leader with a message worth booking. Now, to help you build your own 3-story stack, I put together a free resource, the 3-Story Builder Worksheet. It's in the show notes. It walks you through each story step by step with simple prompts to get what's in your head onto the page, and fast. And when you're ready to go deeper, to take those stories and plug them into keynotes, webinars, sales calls, or anywhere you speak. That's what we cover in the Next Stage Story Stack mini course, and we'll talk more about that in a bit. But first, let's talk about deployment, because telling the right story is just part 1. Placing it with purpose, that's how you turn it into revenue. Let's jump into that. You've got the stories. Now let's talk about where and how to use them, because even the best crafted story will fall flat if it shows up in the wrong moment, with the wrong tone, or in the wrong order. Structure is what earns the yes, and placement is what gets the replays, the referrals, and a booked out speaking calendar. Let's walk through the real-world deployment strategy for your 3-story stack. Number 1, start with connection, the pre-pitch frame. This is where most speakers miss the mark. They wait to tell their story until after they've made the offer. But then it's too late. Your audience is already deciding whether to say yes, and if they don't feel connected, well, they'll rationalize their way out. That's why you open with your connection story. You use it right up front, before the pitch, before the slide deck, even before your bullet points. It's not there to impress. It's really there to lower defenses, to make your audience say, okay, this person gets it. I trust them. Now, this is true on stages, webinars, even one-to-one calls. Lead with relatability and then deliver the goods. Number 2, anchor the learning. for a mid-talk energy reset. So let's talk about your lesson story and when to drop it. Every presentation has a dip. Might be 12 minutes into a keynote. It might be minute 6 of a discovery call. You can feel it. The attention drifts, energy flattens, and focus fades. Now, that's when you do not double down on slides. You pivot into story. This is where your hero's guide lesson story shines. You're not just giving more content, you're pulling the audience back in with an emotionally anchored example of transformation. And here's the magic. Because your client is the hero, your audience sees themselves in the win. They lean in. They learn without feeling like they're being taught. And they walk away remembering your story, not your slide copy. Number 3, drive action. Close with the call to action story. This is where so many speakers panic. They flip to the pitch slide. They rattle off features or bonuses and maybe urgency timers. But you tell a story. A short, specific story that shows someone like your audience taking action and getting the result. No pressure, no persuasion tactics, just proof. This is what makes your offer feel natural, not forced, not salesy, just next. Your call to action story acts like a bridge from maybe someday to let's do this now. And that bridge, built right, and they'll walk across it all on their own. Now, here's a bonus layer. Match the story to the format. It's not just about where the stories go, it's about how you adapt them for the context that you're in. You're not going to tell the same version of your connection story in a podcast interview as you would during a live keynote. And you're not going to share your hero's guide lesson story the same way on a sales page as you would during a Zoom call. So here's the rule. Same story, different expression. Shorten it, stretch it, shift the angle, but the core remains. The most effective speakers, they don't have 50 stories. They have 3, 4, maybe 5 go-to stories that they've refined, they've sharpened, and they know how to flex across all the different formats. And don't skip the transitions. You know what kills story momentum? Bad transitions. Such as, well, I'm going to tell you a story now. Nope. Oh, that's a big warning label. It's not a setup. Instead, use soft entries like this. Let me show you what this looks like in real life. Or I had a client go through this exact same thing. Or perhaps, this reminded me of a moment that I'll never forget. Keep the flow conversational. Let the story feel like a continuation, not a detour. All right, let's summarize. Use your connection story early to build trust. Drop your lesson story mid-message to anchor belief. And close with your call to action story to inspire action. Adjust your stories to fit the platform, the length, and the tone. Practice your transitions so your stories don't feel scripted or stiff. This is how your story becomes an asset, not just a moment. Because when you deploy the right story at the right time, you don't just sound polished, you become unforgettable. Now, to make this even easier, remember, the link to grab your copy of the 3-Story Builder worksheet is waiting for you in the show notes. Use it to outline each of these stories and note where they will fit in your existing talks, your webinars, or sales calls. And if you're ready to take that stack and turn it into a full message, one that you can deliver anywhere with confidence and clarity, that's exactly what we do inside the Next Stage Story Stack mini course. Coming up, I'll walk you through how to take what we've covered today and actually turn it into a talk that books gigs and brings in clients. If there's one thing I want you to take away from today's episode, it's this. You do not need more content. You need stories that work. And not just any stories, stories that build trust, stories that teach powerfully and move people to say, yes, I'm in. That's what the 3-story stack gives you. Now, we've covered a lot today, so here's a quick recap. Your connection story is not there to impress. It's there to relate. That's how you earn trust early on. Your hero's guide lesson story is where you guide the hero, your client, your audience member, through a real shift. That's how you prove that your process works. And your call to action story? That's your closer, a story that shows what's possible when someone says yes, without sounding like a pitch. And when you place those stories in the right order at the right time, you stop sounding like someone who has a good message and you start sounding like someone that people want to follow, want to book, and want to buy from. Now, here's what to do next. Step number 1, grab that 3-story builder worksheet. It's waiting for you in the show notes. And I'll walk you through your own connection, lesson, and call to action stories with simple prompts and clear structure. Think of it as your quick start kit for building a message that finally feels like you and actually converts. Step number 2, if you're ready to go deeper to learn exactly how to stack those stories into a full talk, a workshop, or maybe a sales conversation, if you want to know how to use them on stage, on camera, or in a pitch, then grab the Next Stage Story Stack mini course. Inside, I'll show you how to craft each of your 3 stories from scratch or polish the ones that you've already got, how to deploy them across platforms from keynotes to webinars and one-on-one calls. Build a signature message that you can use everywhere without starting from scratch every time you speak. It's practical, it's fast, and it's designed to help you go from random storytelling to strategic message stacking in less than a weekend. You'll find a link for that in the show notes as well. And if you're at the point where you know that your message is close, you just need some help pulling it together into something powerful and profitable, well, that's what my signature chunk session is for. We'll take what you've got, your stories, your point of view, your offer, and shape it into a talk or a pitch that gets you booked, remembered, and referred. If you're serious about turning speaking into a business asset, that's your next step. Again, link is in the show notes. One last thing before we wrap up. If this episode has helped you, if it got you thinking differently maybe about your stories, your structure, or your strategy, would you do me a favor? Hit that subscribe button. Share this with someone else who needs it, and leave a quick review. It helps more than you know. Because your story matters, but your message, that's what moves people. Let's build it. Let's stack it. And I can't wait to see you on the next stage.